Krishna.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadanti Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Saragana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushrute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kirpa Sindhupaeva cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Shashwat. Thank you very much for the wonderful Mangalacharan. In spite of you being in the car, thank you very much for showing so much enthusiasm. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and we are in Canto 1, Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. And the text for today, Prabhuji, is text 32. Prabhuji, would you like us to read the text, translation and purport before we hand over to you?
Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Shashwin, would you like to do it or should we? Okay, Shashwin's.
I can do it, Mataji.
Shashwin, would you? You can do it. Okay. I really love your enthusiasm. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasthaprayeshvabhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Deva Devadatam Imapiran Swara Brahma Vibhushtitam Burchayitva Harikata Gayamanas Charamyaham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ashwin. Would anybody like to do the word to word? Hare Krishna. Lakshmi Mataji, would you like to do the
Hare
word to
Krishna,
word
Mataji.
or translation?
Yeah, yes, Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Deva,
Krishna.
the Supreme
Deva,
Personality of God, the Supreme Personality of God is Shri Krishna.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna.
Datha, gifted by.
Datha, gifted by.
Imam, this.
Imam, this.
Veenam, a musical stringed instrument.
Veenam, a musical stringed instrument.
Swara, singing meter.
Swara, singing meter.
Brahma, transcendental.
Brahma, transcendental.
Vibhusitham, decorated with.
Vibhushitam, decorated with.
Murchayitva, vibrating.
Murchaivita, vibrating.
Harikatham, transcendental message.
Harikatha, transcendental message.
Gayamanaha, singing
Gayama-
constantly.
Gayamanaha, singing constantly.
Charami, do move.
Charami, do more.
Aham, I.
Aham, I. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Divyesh Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, is it possible for you to do the translation for 1.6.32?
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound and which was given to me by Lord Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can you do the purport as well?
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The musical stringed instrument called the veena, which was handed to Narada by Lord Sri Krishna, it is described in the Linga Purana, and this is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. The transcendental instrument is identical with Lord Sri Krishna and Narada, because all of them are of the same transcendental category. Sound vibrated by the instrument cannot be material, and therefore the glories and the pastime which are broadcasted by the instrument of Narada are also transcendental, without a tinge of material inebriety. The 7 singing meters, namely Sha, Shadja, Ri, Rishabha, Ga, Gandhara, Ma, Madhyama, Pa, Panchama, Dha, Devata, and Ni, Nishada, are also transcendental and specifically meant for transcendental songs. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Sri Narada Deva is always fulfilling his obligation to the Lord for the gift of the instrument. And thus, he is always engaged in singing his transcendental glories and is therefore infallible in his exalted position. Following in the footsteps of Srila Narad Muni, a self-realized soul in the material world should also properly use the sound meters, namely Sha, Ri, Ga, Ma, etc., in the service of the Lord by constantly singing the glories of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. I hand over to you now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled. Thank you for
Hare
allowing
Krishna.
service. So I'll repeat the text again. And thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the first few sentences that the sound vibrated by the instrument of Narad cannot be material. And therefore the glories and pastimes which are broadcast are also transcendental. So this opens a question that what is the difference between material and spiritual? What is our understanding? Who would like to offer their understanding of what is the difference between material and spiritual? A material thing and a spiritual thing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can I try?
Prabhuji, material,
Yeah. Anything spiritual is anything offered unconditionally with love and devotion for the enjoyment of Lord Krishna. And anything material is anything you do for your self-enjoyment. Hare Krishna.
And where did you hear that? You remember? Where did you learn that?
In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita?
Okay. You remember the chapter?
No, Prabhuji, sorry.
Okay, that's good. Okay, someone else?
Prabhuji, material is, it never lasts. And it's a dukhalay, while spiritual is everlasting, shashwatam. So
Confirm. If
Prabhuji,
you-
there is something,
Yes. Where's
there is something on the chat by Lakshmi Pashupati Mataji. She's saying the same. Material is temporary, spiritual is eternal.
okay? And can anyone remember where that is confirmed? By Krishna or Srila Prabhupada?
In the
Huh?
in the Bhagavad Gita, but I do not know which chapter or which shloka.
Okay. Yeah, I can think of in the second chapter, Lord Krishna tells that verse that that which is non-existent is temporary, and that which is existent is eternal. So that connects to what you're saying. Anyone else? Some other different ideas of what's material and what's spiritual? Okay.
Hare Krishna,
So-
Prabhu.
Huh?
Material, it's just the reflection of the spiritual world. It's in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The tree upside down, that one, which I could
Uh-huh.
relate here.
Yes, in the 15th chapter, the material world is said to be a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. These are all good answers. They are there, confirmed by Guru in Shastra and Script. So in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I'm thinking Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that things which are engaged in the service of Brahman become Brahman. Which goes along with what Srila Prabhupada is saying here about Narada Muni's Dina. So things that are connected to Krishna, that are consciously, that we are conscious that this is connected to Krishna. And when we use it for the purpose of the Supreme Brahman, that is one definition of spirit. The pen, when we use the pen to write something, some notes about what we read about Krishna, or we are writing a letter to our spiritual master, or we are making a sign with markers and paint for the temple or for a program, that pen or paintbrush becomes spiritual. the ink becomes spiritual, the paint becomes spiritual. Your arm, which is doing the service for Krishna, moving the paintbrush, is spiritual. So one of the definitions of what is the difference between material and spiritual. So material means disconnected from Krishna, specifically disconnected from being used for Krishna's pleasure. As Prabhu mentioned, things that are offered with love to Krishna. So things, our body, our mind, the car, the horse, everything, when it is remembered, the connection to Krishna and used for his purposes, it becomes spiritual, not material, to the extent that it is actually engaged. We may use our body and our mind 80% for Krishna and 20% not thinking about Krishna, just using it for a selfish purpose. So things that are used not for Krishna's pleasure become material. They become, as Lord Krishna explains in the 4th chapter, they become spiritualized. The example is given of a gold-plated box. So the box may be actually made of wood, but if it is plated with gold, it looks like gold. And it's the outer chemical constitution is gold. It is not permanently spiritual. So there's a difference between spiritualization and something which is eternally spiritual. And that's a different definition. Just like Lord Krishna's transcendental body, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda. His body is made of consciousness, and everything in the spiritual world is made of eternal consciousness. As Kirtika Mataji was mentioning, that which is spiritual is eternal. It never deteriorates. And the spiritual things are conscious. They're full of knowledge. So even though this body or the computer is by nature not eternal and not conscious, when we use the computer, we use the paintbrush, we use our fingers and our body and our mind as if they were permanently spiritual, then they become spiritualized. And to the extent that we are fully engaged, they actually begin to act like spirit. Yes. So Narada Muni is using this instrument in the service of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that the different singing meters, the different sounds and styles of tunes in the Vedas are actually meant for glorifying Krishna. And as a pure devotee of Krishna, that is what Sri Narada Muni does. That's what pure devotees do. At the end of this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the Bhagavad Gita, and that text is most probably the 9th verse of the 10th chapter. It's a verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes a lot. It's a very significant verse for all devotees of Krishna. Madchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, it very much parallels this verse in Bhagavad Gita. We say that Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study of Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches the principles of Bhagavad Gita with deeper explanation, in more depth. So that this verse from Bhagavad Gita, it's the verse, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, happiness, from always enlightening one another and conversing, talking about me. So these are very, very basic qualities of devotees. And the more a devotee is advanced, making advancement, the more that we will see that this is what they do. Just like Narada Muni is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so to speak, he is fully dedicated to glorifying Krishna, teaching about Krishna, meditating upon Krishna. And the verse by Lord Krishna says that, what is that? Tushyanti cha ramanti cha, Rama. Just like Srila Prabhupada explains that Rama means the maximum full spiritual pleasure, Rama. So Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha, that by this activity of discussing Krishna, devotees enjoy ramanti. They enjoy transcendental bliss. This is how we enjoy. This is how we experience pleasure. We all want to be happy. We all want to have fun and enjoy ourselves. We want to feel joyful. That is normal. The question is how. The question is how. So we know there are so many different pursuits. People try to feel happy in many different ways in this world, trying to use this material body to be happy. So our real, eternal source of natural, automatic pleasure, you don't have to spend a dime, you don't have to spend a shilling, no money required, you don't have to go anywhere. But this activity, matchita madgata prana bodhyanta parasparam. So I'll read the word for word translation. Matchita, this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Their minds are fully engaged in me. Mat gata prana, their lives are devoted to me. Bodhyanta, preaching. Parasparam, among themselves. This particular verse stresses not preaching to non-devotees, but amongst ourselves as devotees. Katayanta, talking. Cha, mam, about me. Nityam, perpetually. Tushyanti, become pleased. Ramanti, they enjoy transcendental bliss. So this is a goal. This is a goal for us. This is something for us to do, something to keep on our list of achievements, that we want to achieve this as much as possible, discussing Krishna when we meet each other. Of course, there's utilitarian, practical discussion. You know, we go to ask something, some business, family matter. But somehow, if we try, we can probably have some Krishna Katha in that discussion. That after we finish our immediate business, we can, oh, I read this thing. I want to share it with you. Oh, I heard this lecture. Oh, what do you think about this? And we should do this, especially the leaders and managers. It is the sacred duty to promote devotional service. We talk about establishing bhakti, promoting. So this is it. To encourage and instigate and to think of different ways that the devotees can be enlivened and have an opportunity to engage in talking about Krishna and hearing about Krishna. We have heard many times that that is the very boat, that is the very means for getting out of Maya and staying out of Maya. It is our protection from Maya to be engaged in thinking about and speaking about. Because why? We're hearing again in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us, it's transcendental sound. Sound about Krishna is Krishna. Namachintamani Krishna, Chaitanya Ras Vigraha, Purna Shuddha, Nitya Mukta, the Nami Nami, that transcendental sound, sound about Krishna is Shabda, Shabda Brahman, spiritual sound. It's not ordinary. Even in the Bible, I think in the Quran also, it is said that when 2 or 3 or more people get together and glorify me, I am present. Krishna becomes present. And when Krishna is present, Krishna Soya Mayahaya Andhakara. When the sun of Krishna is present, the darkness goes away. When Dhruva Maharaj, we will read in the future, or we may have read, Dhruva Maharaj, he's a great pure devotee, and he is engaged in fighting with some demoniac forces, and they're throwing magical darkness at him. And he's feeling covered and surrounded with darkness. And he doesn't know what to do. And he calls upon his guru for advice, Narada Muni. And Narada Muni says, face the light. If there's darkness, you need more light, right? Simple thing. When we go into a room and it's dark and we're concerned about snakes and bumping our feet, we turn on the light. So if we feel that our life or the day or the hour is becoming dark, then we want to bring more Krishna in immediately. And we do that by talking about Krishna, by singing about, we should sing some bhajan immediately. Chant some japa. Call someone up, find someone in the house and talk about Krishna. Bring Krishna closer. Srila Prabhupada would answer in slightly different ways when he was questioned about the chanting of japa. Some classes ago, we were talking about always carrying our bag and our beads and all of that. So Srila Prabhupada, one time he answered, it is just like staying close to a radio. You know, sometimes in a company, like a construction company or a fishing company, there'll be a base, a headquarters that has a radio, and then the workers or the boats, they have also radios and they stay in communication, they stay in touch. So Srila Prabhupada said the chanting of Hare Krishna and the singing of bhajan and the talking about Krishna, it keeps us in touch with Krishna just like a radio. It's a very powerful spiritual practice. Now, we may not always feel like it because we are in the stage of Vaidhi Bhakti. We may not feel always spontaneous interest. It may even feel awkward. It feels strange. I'm starting a conversation about Krishna, and I'm not sure it's really me, or I can't say I'm completely, but we should push ourselves anyway. We must. That understanding that this is my boat for crossing Maya. This is my protection against Maya. This is the way of purifying myself and increasing my spontaneous love for Krishna. The more we stay close to Krishna, the quicker our spontaneous love will grow. So Vaidhi means obligatory. Even though we may not really feel like it, we should try it, push ourselves when we meet with people to somehow talk about Krishna. How are your deities in your house? What did you cook for them? I cooked this. What are you doing for the festival? When was the last time you contacted your spiritual master? Something. The easiest thing is, what have you heard about Krishna lately? And then you discuss for a few minutes. And the result, Tushanticha Ramanticha. We will feel, as Srila Prabhupada has said, spiritual happiness coming from within. How does Srila Prabhupada describe the chanting of Hare Krishna? That there is no intellectual adjustment needed. There is no knowledge needed. There's nothing needed. Just have to do it because it is totally a spiritual activity. So these are some very important points. If we want to keep Maya out of the house, out of our mind, out of the temple, out of the community, then we have to promote hearing and chanting. Just like we have these online classes, there can be bhajan groups, even 2 people get together once a week, twice a week, something to increase the hearing about Krishna. So Srila Narada Muni is, of course, a very powerful, wonderful example. And who else can we think of that's like Narada Muni, always talking about Krishna, teaching about Krishna? Who can we think of that?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj. And you may remember that Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offering prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, there's a very famous prayer where Prahlad Maharaj says that, for myself, I have no anxiety. Even though I'm in this material world and it's a place of suffering, because I am always glorifying Krishna and hearing about Krishna, I'm always feeling Mahamrita, Maha Amrita, Maha spiritual pleasure. So yes, Prahlad Maharaj. Who else?
Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur. Who else? Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Sri Advaita, the 6 Goswamis. Who else do we know? Always glorifying Krishna, completely dedicated to this Machita Makata Prana.
Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada, our own divine ISKCON founder Acharya. I remember when I first started reading Bhagavad Gita, actually I met the devotees one afternoon and somehow I joined the temple that afternoon. And I had seen Bhagavad Gita, but I had never read it. So I started reading and I began to appreciate very immediately, very quickly, that His divine grace was a living Bhagavad Gita, that he was and had been his entire life doing exactly this. Machita Makata Prana Bodhiyantas Parasparam. And so I could understand, even though I did not know very much, I knew very little. That what a pure devotee of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Just like, how is it that we're sitting here now? It is because just like Narada Muni, Srila Prabhupada was traveling around the world and inspiring Krishna Bhakti. That is why we are here. And these transcendental literatures, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and all of them, they are the veena of his divine grace. Narada Muni is playing the veena and singing, and Srila Prabhupada also played harmonium and mridanga and kartal, singing about Krishna. But he said that these books, they are the brihat mridanga. They are the big music, because these books, they go anywhere and everywhere, giving people all over the world the chance to hear the glories of Krishna. So our Srila Prabhupada is a most amazing, wonderful Sri Narada Muni. So at the end, Srila Prabhupada instructs us that we should go on with this focus. This is the focus in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma describes in his prayers to Lord Krishna that those who are dedicated to this hearing and chanting, they are able to capture the attention of Lord Krishna and develop pure devotion. So this is our process. And we are surrounded, or we can surround ourselves with enthusiastic devotees, either enthusiastic devotees from the past in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there are certainly so many hundreds of enthusiastic devotees who gather every day in their own homes, or they gather at the temples for Mangal Arti, greeting of the deities, and we can associate with the devotees and their enthusiasm to do this. Machita, Makata Prana, Bodhiyantas Paraspara. This is the Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. So this is our Hare Krishna movement. So we can have discussion and comments, questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Today I learned the meaning that Sare Gama Pada Nisa is actually, there are words for it, Sajda and Rishabha, Gandhara. I didn't know that they had these names. So, Prabhuji, are these names of just suras, or are they names of other people or other personalities?
What, the singing meters?
Yes, Sajda, Rishabha, Gandhara, Madhyama, Panchama.
No, they may,
Just
but they are just labels. There's different meters, just like when we say the verses of Bhagavad Gita, they have a certain meter. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's different meters, Chintamani, Prakara, Sadma, Sukha, Praviksha. So that's a certain meter. And then besides meters, then there's ragas. There's certain tunes that have their own distinctive style. There's many ragas. So in the Vedas, we will find such structured, deep, comprehensive poetry and language, agriculture, everything. It's very, very deep, not shallow.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, Prabhu, I have one or two questions, if I may.
Yes.
Prabhu, if everything in this beautiful world, it's everything has a purpose, everything has a value, belongs to Lord Krishna, then how can anything material also not be good? Only spiritual is good, number one. Number
That's
two, I come across many people who are struggling in their daily lives, even just to survive. And sometimes it results to some immoral ways of trying to get Lakshmi just to try and survive. Now, how do you explain to somebody that, to come out of all these things? So the first question they'll ask you is, how am I going to put food on my table first, right? So these are some of the issues that just like your clarification or comments. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, very, very good. Very good question. Very, very good question. It might be said that, as in certain philosophies, everything is God. The cockroach is God. The stone is God. So why don't we worship the cockroach? So obviously the cockroach is not worshipable. And you asked about everything has a purpose and it has a use. It becomes good when it's used for Krishna. When we use anything for our own selfish purposes without reference to Krishna, it incurs karma, whether it's eating an apple, or it's using a gun to shoot an animal, or it's using the car to drive somewhere to do something without any connection to Krishna, then it is not good. So yes, everything is good to the extent that it is being used in a way that Krishna approves and for the service of Krishna. Otherwise, it gets us in trouble. So yeah, the purpose of everything is to be engaged in the service of Krishna. And that is good for the thing, just like when we pick flowers or we pick vegetables, then the plant, the soul in the plant body or the flower body is promoted to a human birth. So things that are, that is we hear about Varnashram in Vedic culture and serving Brahmins. So what is it about serving a Brahmin which is so special? Because the Brahmin, depending upon the Brahmin, are engaged in Krishna's service. They're like an electric plug. So they are, hopefully, to different degrees, connected to Krishna. And so when we connect to the Brahmin by giving anything, if we help the Brahmin, if we help the preacher of Krishna consciousness to serve Krishna, or we help the pujari in the temple, or we help any devotee to serve Krishna, then we are connecting with Krishna. Just like if you put your finger in, if someone has their finger in an electric socket and you touch them, you'll become electricized too. That's why if someone is stuck to some electricity, you always use wood. You don't try and pull the person away with your hands because you could become stuck also. Just a side advice. So connecting, and then we also, when we connect with the spiritual energy, when we connect with Krishna, just like when we connect with ISKCON, the focus of ISKCON is service to Krishna. So when we do anything to assist the temple and connect our energy to the temple, we become purified of past sins. So yes, everything has a purpose and everything it's potentially good. So I think that should be clear about the first part.
Thank you. That's very clear. Hare Krishna.
And then the second question is very, very important to understand for a couple of different reasons. Because after all, we need to feed our body. We need to provide food for our family. And the nature, Lord Krishna says himself in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that every activity has some fault, even very good activities. Even you are cooking to make an offering to the deity, you're killing insects inside the oven. And while you're walking around, you're stepping on some insects. So there's always some fault. Sometimes we're working for a company that does some sinful thing. For example, I know devotees, they work for a company that, say, an oil company, but the oil company owns land that cattle that are being raised for slaughter. That's where they eat from. So even though we're doing some work for the oil company, whatever it may be, accounting or secretarial or managing or working in the oil field, somehow that company is connected to very bad activities. So what should I do? Quit? What if the only job I can find is at a store and I'm doing whatever I might be doing and they sell meat? So what should I do? Quit? Because, oh, they sell meat. Sometimes I'm helping customers to put things in their bags. I'm putting meat in the bag. Should I quit? No. No. Because every activity has some fault. As we have been discussing, the purifying method is that whatever money we earn, we use it in the direction of Krishna. It doesn't mean that every dime we earn, we donate to a preacher or to the temple, but we use it to maintain our life, which is dedicated to Krishna. So if I'm working at a place which has some sinful activities, but I'm using the money so I can eat, to stay alive, to hear about Krishna, to talk about Krishna, to chant my japa, so I have strength to do my duty of maintaining my family, then that activity is purified. You will not suffer nearly as much sinful reaction as you might think. A very important point to understand. Now, of course, if somehow there's just no other work and we're doing something close connection, working in a store, it sells, I don't know, ganja or something, or liquor, a liquor store. So as soon as possible, we should change jobs. Krishna knows what we're doing. So we want to have as clean as work as possible. And however much it's not clean, it will be purified by our using the results of the activities for Krishna, especially making some donation, however small. It can be 1 shilling a week. Whatever it is, we donate to the pure devotees of Krishna, to the preachers of Krishna consciousness. That way, we can go to work, and although we mostly are working for food on the table, at least in the back of our mind, we're thinking, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, I'm going to give 2 shillings to the temple. Something, or 100, or 10,000, whatever it may be. It is the spirit. That's the whole thing. It is our inner intent. Krishna knows what our inner purpose is. Maya knows what our real inner purpose is. We can't fool anyone. But if we are doing the best we can, and we are using the results of our work for Krishna purposes, then there will not be much sinful activity, sinful reaction. I experienced this. I think I shared. I was working for a computer company, but sometimes I was going into McDonald's restaurants, into completely meat selling restaurants and fixing the computers. So I felt very bad about that. So then I was reminded about this principle. And it wasn't very often. But so that helped me to not feel too upset about it. Not that I liked it, but that's life. That's, as Lord Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, there's always going to be some fault, some kind of mistake that's made in our activities. So yes, focus on yeah, it is said that a hungry person won't hear about God. And it's true. According to our advancement, all of us need different levels of material comfort. Some of us may be at peace with very little. And some of us, for whatever reason, we need to have more material comfort in order to have peace of mind. So the first thing may be, not the first thing, but it may be that our main focus is just trying to get money for ourselves to live, or for our family to live, or our parents to live. But that doesn't mean that we have to have no Krishna consciousness. And we can also make our intent that let me secure my financial situation so I can more peacefully serve Krishna. And that will make it spiritual. It's not just making money. It's how I can please Krishna by being able to serve Krishna better. So that will make the anxiety connected to Krishna. You see? So it is a matter of connect. So just like, suppose going on a vacation or some amusement. Yes, I'm going to take some little time. I'm going to play some soccer. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to take a rest. I'm going to go to the beach so that I can become rested and relaxed so I can serve Krishna better. You see? So that makes the activity spiritualized. And it's not just like some kind of trick or something. It is a trick. It is a way of spiritualizing our life. I want to eat. So let me eat so I have strength to do my devotional activities. That makes it spiritualized, more spiritualized. It may be honestly true that we really want to eat a particular food, but at the same time, we know I'm going to get energy by eating this thing. So I'm going to use that for devotion, for bhakti. Okay, how is that? You have some other questions?
This is really, really excellent. Thank you so much. It's really cleared up a lot of issues. My final question is, it's Ekadasi today. If you're on medication, does that now the medication again, you don't know what's the components, what happens to that when you're fasting?
We do the best we can. And Krishna is a person. He knows this person needs to take their medicine or their heart will get arrhythmia or whatever it may be. So if we really need it, then we need it. Krishna is not going to penalize us.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
And
Krishna.
yeah, and if we are really ill, we may not be able to follow Ekadasi. We may not even be able to follow it the next day. So it is said in those circumstances that if one reads the narration about that particular Ekadasi, there is a story for each Ekadasi. If one reads it, it is equal to observing Ekadasi in that situation.
Thank you so much for all your clarifications. Hare Krishna.
thank you for the opportunity of being of service.
Thank
What
you.
do I know? I just I just try and channel the appropriate information.
No, no, still, thank you so much. It's service to Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
It's a very good discussion, very practical. Not that everyone has to live in the temple. There's not enough room in the temple. So we have to learn and help people to know how to spiritualize their life wherever they are, on a ship in the army or a hospital or our house, wherever it is. It is a matter of learning the art, as Lord Krishna explains in the second chapter. He tells Arjuna that I'm going to teach you the art of yoga. That's why we have mentors and spiritual masters to teach us all these different details how to connect with Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question. Prabhuji,
Yes.
when you said that if in the moment of darkness, Krishna into your life, and one of the way is to call somebody and discuss Krishna with them. So can you, do you tell them your problem? Or for example, this has happened to me and upset me, or do you just talk about Krishna? So, because if you are talking about the problems to that person, then you are emphasizing the problem. Or do you tell them what has happened and then discuss Krishna, or how do you do that?
Well, of course, we have to discuss our feelings. That's one of the 6 exchanges between devotees, revealing that I have this anxiety, I have this family issue, I have this marital issue, financial, so many different issues that we humans have. So of course we're discussing them with whoever it might be. But hopefully we will think of an answer, at least part of the answer will be something to do with Krishna consciousness. That you're having this issue. What about your sadhana? Is it the way you want it to be? Good? Is it giving? Are you getting the strength that you might have with better sadhana? The first, whenever anyone is having some challenge, the first thing is to check in about the spiritual health. Because to a significant degree, when the spiritual strength is strong, then the person's mind will be strong. And when the mind is strong, then we don't feel as bothered by things. Just like children, we know when children are tired, they get bothered over the littlest tiny thing. And we know you need to take a nap. So it is the same for all of us. The stronger our minds and intelligence, then the less we will feel bothered and in anxiety. And we get more strength. The first and foremost way is by our bhakti practices. And then secondarily, of course, our lifestyle, that it is conducive to a healthy body and a healthy mind. And also so the first thing is, how are we spiritually? So if someone comes to us and says, oh, this challenge, I see. And we listen, and of course we hear, but there should be some check-in. Do you think your spiritual practices are strong enough to give you the support you need? And then, secondarily, your health, and there may be other solutions that are needed. If someone is having headaches, then we should see a doctor, or we may know some. So there may be some. I don't know the word to use. I don't like the word practical, but some secondary material, sort of temporary remedy, temporary remedies that we talk about and we think about. So there should be both. And then after the problem is discussed, hopefully, then all right. So we've set we now there's a plan. We've discussed it. Okay. So what have you been reading lately? We see the deities last week. They were amazing, beautiful. So at the end, or it may not be possible. The person may be in so much anxiety, it's just not the time. So that just association of devotees is spiritual, because we're both connected to Krishna. We're trying to be connected to Krishna. So just to offer comfort, a lot of helping others is just listening. Just listening. Right?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Yeah, we should not be fanatical that we don't pay attention, because that's not Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is that I'm having difficulty with my children, a very challenging situation. I don't know how to deal with it. So that's a reality, a temporary reality, and it has to be, it can't just be ignored. We can't just make believe and chant Hare Krishna and be happy. No. These children are Krishna's. Their relationship is Krishna's. I need to keep this relationship. I need to do what I can to keep the relationship a good one for the benefit of my children's Krishna consciousness, my Krishna consciousness. So it must be not that, well, this car is, it's material, it's temporary, it's not that important. We're all going to die. We could die tomorrow. Why change the oil of the car? No, we have to live each day like we're going to be here forever, but always remember we're not going to be here forever. We should be very responsible, very dependable. Devotees should be the most dependable. But at the same time, the devotees know that this car or this cat or this son or daughter, they're not going to be around forever. We have children. And so it's a little hard, and we do become attached. But hopefully we're remembering that my duty is to train my children to live independently, not keep them stuck to me. I have to let them grow and learn how to make decisions and learn how to make mistakes and let them go. So that's a very good practice of this, of being very attentive and responsible in Krishna consciousness with some degree of detachment in the back of our mind.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Santya Mataji has a question. Kindly unmute and ask. And I'm aware that we have exhausted our time. Prabhuji, do you have time for one more question?
Yes.
Okay, Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I just wanted to ask a very quick question, really. I don't know whether it will be quick or not. I mean, prior to joining Krishna consciousness and hearing Gita and Bhagavatam, I used to do everything that is in the 4 principles that we shouldn't, that is meat eating. But I used to also kill a lot of flies, mosquitoes, and ants, etc. But I've stopped doing all of those, thankfully. But I was doing my patio this morning, and I've just put a lot of, the weed killer, bleach to kill the weeds between the patio. But I don't know how can I justify that. I don't know, Prabhuji. How does one? I mean, of course, I don't want to start spiritualizing every wrong thing that I do, but how do I go about that, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Yes. Well, we want to avoid causing pain and difficulty to any creature. Sometimes the bugs or the rats or the mice, they bring disease. And if we keep everything as clean as possible, there should be less botheration from such animals. But if they become too much, then it is self-defense. We are allowed to take self-defense. That becomes a minor, simple thing, to pull up trees because we want the front yard to look more beautiful, or to kill weeds because we don't like the look of it. Frankly, that's the truth. It's one thing to trim the weeds, to cut them close to and I know they just keep growing back. So we try and avoid it. We try and avoid killing anything. If in the course of activities it happens, and it will happen, and then of course, we feel some regret, and our bhakti, our regular practices will destroy such minor sins. It's true. Our regular japa and bhajan, etc., our meditation on Krishna destroys all these minor sins. We just don't want to do anything willfully, simply out of anger or out of lust or simply for our own desire without some reasonable reason. If we have poisonous plants around our house and our children or our pets or someone could get hurt, then we need to pull them up. And that is allowed in human life. And of course, we may feel a little bad that this is a soul, but such things we have to see. That's Lord Krishna says in this material world, there's always going to be some mistakes. You're always going to commit some kind of minor sinful activity. It's just there. That's why we have to be very careful to be just like if someone is working in a pest control company somehow. Maybe they are just finding out about Krishna consciousness, and but they're still working for this company. They had better as fully engage in Krishna consciousness as possible, because the sins will accumulate. So I'm sorry I could not answer, I think, your question directly. We want to avoid such things.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, trim them.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I think we've exhausted our time.
Okay.
Divyesh Prabhuji, is it possible for you to end the session?
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your time and your efforts. And we pray to Lord Krishna to keep on giving you the strength and the ability to carry on this wonderful mission and spreading the Lord's words and love and grace and knowledge to all of us. Thank you so much for your time, and you've been consistently coming to share, giving us service. We really, really appreciate this. May Lord Krishna bless us all. Thank you. I request everyone to unmute and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Kripa
Sindhu
Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnava Namo Namo.
I just want to add something that, again, we don't have to be fanatics when we meet amongst ourselves. Of course, we're social beings, and how is your family? How is this? How is that? That's fine. And it's without going crazy, we should try and introduce some Krishna Katha, direct Krishna Katha. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful words. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Shri
Jai.
Haribo. Everyone be well, be happy.
ki jai.
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 Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.